Hey, it's Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast here to tell you about Michelob Ultra Courtside. It's getting fans closer to the NBA with a chance to win prizes like courtside seats, a trip to All-Star Weekend, and much more. Check it out at MichelobUltra.com/courtside. Michelob Ultra Superior Access, Courtside 24-25 sweepstakes, no purchase necessary. Open to U.S. residents 21 and up. Begins on October 1st, 2024, ends July 1st, 2025. Multiple entry periods. Visit MichelobUltra.com/courtside for free entry deadlines, and official rules. Message and data rates may apply. Void where prohibited.
On this episode of Bantha Milk Podcast, we speak to whales.
You've been planning that all day.
I have been.
Intro music.
My country feels no good to me dead. Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
You know, I even I talked to Luke on my way here because I said, "You mind if, like, as soon as we're done, you stick around and I leave?" Because he's like, "Oh, you got to do your podcast, right?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, so Rob can do his whale voice.
Oh, he spoiled it.
So, like, no, he didn't spoil it. He made it even better.
He made it even better. Okay.
He sold, like, he's been planning it, I know, and I guess you workshopped it.
Yeah, because we were talking. He came in and we were talking about the episode.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Ooh, that's how I can start the episode."
There you go.
Hello.
Love it.
Yeah,
Now you
so-
kind of sound like you're in Seinfeld. Hello. La, la, la.
Why don't you just tell me the name of the movie that you want to watch?
Like, my dad, like, Seinfeld was on when, I was certainly not old enough for its target audience.
And I was in college.
And yeah, exactly. But my dad liked it a lot. And I did watch it. Now I love it, but, like, I watched it and I remember liking it then. But there are certain moments, like, that happen now that, like, I'm transported back into my living room when I was, like, 12 or 11, just because I remember that line. And that's exact moment is one of them that I just remember losing my crap to. And, like, why don't the whole movie phone bit.
The whole movie phone bit was great. And the fact that Kramer was carrying around his cell phone, or not a cell phone, his wireless phone into Jerry's apartment like he was working for the movie phone company. He took it so seriously. Push 1 if you want to see Die Hard. Push 2 if you want to see the Brady movie. Beep,
why don't you just tell me?
Why don't you just tell me the name of the movie you want to see?
Yeah, no, that's...
Which is great because kids these days don't even know what that's in reference to. Or
Well, in 5 years, even just say check the app will be ridiculous because it's like our AI assistant will already be telling us.
We'll already be telling you. They'll know what we're thinking before we even think it.
It's like, hey, Mr. AI man, and it'll go, I know everything you've ever thought and ever will think. This is the information you desire.
This is the movie that you want to see. We'll be showing at 8 o'clock, 7:45.
No, but I really wanted to go see this other.
No, you didn't.
You don't. I promise.
I promise.
You want to see this.
The algorithm tells me that you don't want to see that. Yeah,
we're Bantha Milk Podcast.
We are Bantha Milk Podcast.
Took a minute to get there, but we are Bantha Milk Podcast. We are coming at you live after part 5. Of the Ahsoka series, Shadow Warrior.
Shadow Warrior,
5, so.
My opinion, the best episode yet.
Yeah, I thought it sucked. No, I'm just kidding. I'm trying to get clicks for us.
There you go.
Can I be that guy?
You can be that guy.
I'll be salty, and everyone's like, "Oh, that guy sucks." But
he's a jerk.
No, it was outstanding. Like we have had, I think, what amounted to legitimate qualms about the process of getting here, but I mean. I want to watch this episode like 11 more times.
Yes.
And then like watch 1 through this so you can see that whole journey.
So you can see the journey, so you can see the build up.
Yeah.
Luke was telling me when we get to the part, but a lot of, I guess, parallels to
Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
They're like, it's not even a parallel. It is literally like they just took one out and threw one in another. And they did that's purposeful, and so they actually retconned Rebels as part of it.
Yes.
So because the last scene, they recreate the last scene of Rebels, but in Rebels she has the white robe on and she's got the white staff. And that was literally, and there are interviews with Dave Filoni, where he talks about this, and he says, yeah, this is literally, when you think about her journey, this is her becoming essentially Ahsoka the White. She's accepted, her role, and she's thought,
she's gotten rid of her guilt, but has accepted.
Yeah,
her
she's
place
taken it on and is moving forward, but in this one, it's even more on the nose.
Yes.
Right. So they when they redid it, they put her back in the gray.
Yeah.
Because they were trying to, I guess, drive home that her spiritual journey wasn't done yet.
Okay.
Right, and she wasn't there yet, and so just like Gandalf, the whole story with Gandalf is he fights the Balrog for literally something like 127 days or some crap like that. While climbing up a mountain uphill both ways, in the snow.
In the snow, yes.
Typical granddad vibes. And then, he kills the dude, and it's like, hooray, I killed the guy, and then he dies. And then, like, his whole thing is he's like not done with whatever he's meant for, or else he needs to be some sort of a balance. And so they send him back as Gandalf the White to be everything that Saruman should have been.
Okay.
So like, in this where she essentially dies, right? Essentially, That's what it is. And
when she's in the world between worlds,
and we'll talk about that whole thing.
Yes.
But like when she comes out of it, essentially while she was there, she was fighting for her soul. She fought through this, that, and the other thing. And then once she's pulled out of it, she's like moved beyond all this guilt, and she comes out of it. And Anakin even says in the thing, like, you're everything I am and more.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's just kind of the whole apprentice-master relationship where you want them to have everything you have and then add their own thing. And it gave me big parent vibes.
Yes.
You know what I meant? Where like you're now you obviously have much more years of this experience, but for me, I'm thinking, I want this kid to take all of like my good qualities and then let's scrub out those things that are inherently going to be there because she's my kid and they're bad qualities. Anyway, that's a long diatribe to say it was great.
That is. And that's the end of our podcast, everybody.
Yeah, it's 4 a.m.
It's 4 a.m. now.
But so yeah, her journey to like the White, and then you see her completely, and just like in Lord of the Rings, Gandalf changes when he comes back as the White. As the Gray, he was like silly and like kind of whimsical and stuff like that. And when he came back as the White, he still had a little bit of that kind of glint in his eyes sort of a thing, but he was not that. He was like something more and something different and had a different purpose. And that's kind of there with Ahsoka, but I think it's almost a little the opposite too, because she had more of that. Once she came back and had that more spiritual, she had more purpose, but she had more of that old Ahsoka, like grinning and like, having a little fun and just trusting in the Force and sort of a thing. But still just kind of coming back different.
Mm-hmm. Yes, 100%. Now that we told you how the episode ends, spoiler alert, we might be talking about episode 5.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's in the title, so if you don't know it by now, then you
and
are...
make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and smash that share
that
button.
Share
Smash
button.
it. Like,
And
hit it
the
with
notifications and
below you'll
yes.
see below that you'll see a link to a UNICEF foundation that's specifically been opened up to support the rehabilitation and resuscitation of Rob's beard.
That's right. So there was a lot of discussion in the Spear household about my beard.
Yeah.
And
did my opinion like come into discussion at all?
Because
Because I think that's an important.
Yeah,
my opinion
it's
is
very
important to inject into your family conversation.
Yes, what you think of the beard is very, very important.
I figured it would be.
Sherry actually said to me, like, "Why did you shave it?" And I said, "Well, it's something different." She goes, "I thought you didn't like it." She goes, "No." So she said she likes it, but short. So somewhere in there, once we figure out how long she likes it, is where I'm just going to set the trimmers to, and it's going to be whatever. So there will be something.
So we'll get to see the regrowth and the rebirth.
Yeah, it's kind of growing back a little bit. I did shave it again the other day.
And what's great is, just due to the way we live and age, much like Gandalf and Ahsoka, It will rise Rob's beard, the white.
The white, the little specks of white. Yes, Rob's beard, the white comeback. So
and it will be something more.
It will be. Real fast, I haven't even cracked into, this is the last of the orange creamsicles. I did turn it upside down already while we were
I was worried that you hadn't
in,
turned it upside down.
Yes,
Would've been
so
a
you
travesty.
have to turn it upside down.
While he's doing that, we get... there it is. That was a two-parter.
Yeah.
We are, we're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. You can really easily find us. I don't have to give you all the keywords. It's 2023. If you can't find Bantha Milk Podcast on Instagram and Twitter by now, maybe you should consider a typewriter.
Yes.
Anyway.
We're also... And Nick has coffee over there.
Yeah,
because
Wawa, God bless Wawa, free coffee for teachers all September.
If you use the code BanthaMilk.
If you you got to make sure you go up to them and say, I'm here for Bantha Milk Podcast.
And then when they say, what? You say, and I'm a teacher. And they go, oh, okay.
Here you go. But make sure you say both parts, equally important.
Both equally important.
Even if they're very confused by the first part, it's all a part of it.
It's all part of the
they have to sell it.
Yes.
Anyway.
So check all that out. Anything at Bantha Milk Podcast, just Google it.
Yeah, and then
you'll
Ears
find us.
Up.
Ears Up.
We're a part of the Ears Up-osphere.
Yeah.
And they're a part of us all.
Yeah. Scraping the Vaults, Puny Pod, and Supreme Resort. Check all those out as well. Sour Cream as well as Ears with a Z Up. Yeah. Real fast, I don't want to spend too much time on news, but there's a couple of little news articles.
Little news.
So we'll do news real fast.
News real fast.
Star Wars news.
I'm being real right now, by the way. I'm going to be real with you.
Oh, is it be real time already?
It sure is.
So Lando, the TV show, is now possibly going to be a movie.
Oh, yeah?
Did you hear this? Yes. So the Sci-Fi and Fantasy Gazette are reporting that Star Wars Lando Disney Plus TV series will now be a movie, according to writer Stephen Glover, not the other Glover who plays Lando.
Not Donald Glover?
Not Donald Glover. It was way back in December 2020 when Lucasfilm announced that Justin Simeon would serve as showrunner on a Lando TV series starring solo Star Wars Galaxy's Donald Glover. Unfortunately, no solid news about the project followed, and Glover has frequently danced around the question of whether he's going to reprise the role made famous by Billy D. Williams. As for Simeon, the series was repeatedly brought up in interviews when he was doing the rounds to promote Disney's Haunted Mansion movie. Admitting that he heard nothing about the series since it was announced, the filmmaker said the studio told him they had figured out everyone's availability. However, shortly after those comments were covered by news sites, we learned Glover and his brother Steven would instead be writing the show following Simeon's exit. The showrunner learned of his firing on social media. A shame when there were surely better ways to handle a change in direction for the spinoff. Can you imagine, you go into work and your stuff's, packed up, but then they say, oh, just check Twitter. And you look and it says, you've been fired.
I know people who have quit that way.
Have quit that way?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, depends, but yeah.
And now they're saying that they're possibly... going to, this guy says, the new Star Wars show about Lando Calrissian made by Donald Glover is not supposed to be a show, period. It's a movie.
I feel like it's enough with the shows. There are enough shows. Not everything has to be a show. What happened to good quality Star Wars movies?
Yeah, we haven't had a movie.
Yeah, it's been
forever.
a while for a movie. What was the last movie? It was Episode 9, right?
Yes. And... I actually have Star Wars The Last Jedi, Andor, Solo. So these are all the movies and shows that have come out since Disney Plus takeover. Star Wars The Last Jedi, Andor, Solo. I don't know when Solo... Did Solo come out after Episode 9?
Came out pretty close to Episode 9, but I think it was before.
Yeah. Star Wars The Force Awakens, Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, Book of Boba Fett, Rogue One... Maybe Rogue One was the last one, no?
No, Rogue One it's been a while on Rogue One.
Okay.
Because Andor is already in its first season. There was a good amount of time between Rogue One and when they started the process for Andor.
Okay.
A couple of years at least.
Yeah. Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, and The Mandalorian are all the things that came out since Disney takeover.
I think the last movie was Episode 9, and then maybe Solo before that. That's been a while.
It has been a while.
It's been a couple
hot
years now,
minute.
right?
So, Solo.
Ho, ho, ho.
Came out in 2018.
No way.
Yeah,
Wow,
Solo,
a
a
lot
Star
longer
Wars
than
story,
that.
came out in 2018, and was The Last Jedi episode 9 or 10?
No, that was so. We're looking for.
I'm sorry, 8 or 9.
Rise or the Skywalker one.
Rise of Skywalker.
Is that the one?
Rise of Skywalker. That's episode 9. That came out in 2019.
So 4 years. It's
Yeah.
been.
Yeah,
It's a long time.
it has been a long time.
Well, it's not really that long a time. We were spoiled, I guess, because
because they were
between
coming out.
episode 4 and 5, or episode 4 and 1, I should say, there was a good 25
there was 20.
years.
Yeah,
Uh,
but there was no nothing new Star Wars for a long time during that time. Also, it was just
yeah, but I also feel like they saw The Mandalorian did well, and they said, well, we might as well stretch some of these cash dollars out amidst a couple different years.
yeah.
But they don't realize that aside from the fact that The Mandalorian is good, most people hopped on board because of Baby Yoda.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what made it a pop culture hit, not its Star Wars content,
No, how many memes are there of Baby Yoda versus how many memes are there of The Mandalorian?
Yeah, how many... yeah, think about anything from The Mandalorian that is not Baby Yoda.
Mm-hmm.
There's literally no... You don't see anything else out there on
No.
regular social media about that. So, if you're going to lean into that, you might want to have a really cool, iconic character in all of them.
Yeah. So,
But also just, maybe only do a couple of them really well instead of a bunch of them, and it's hit or miss.
right. So maybe making Lando a movie. And also, we discussed Ahsoka, how slow it is. Some people say it's necessary to be this slow to tell the story better. I would argue that a 2.5 to 3 hour Ahsoka movie might actually be better than a 7 hour, 8 episode series.
I bet in Hollywood it's easier to pitch 8 episodes than it is to pitch a 3-hour movie.
Probably.
Especially a Star Wars. If it's a 3-hour movie, it's got to have huge funding and Christopher Nolan as the producer.
Yeah. And
but
the
anything
budget's
over 2.5 hours, for a movie, I feel like people get no one's going to watch that. It's too long.
right. And the budget for movies are so astronomical also. And these are on a big budget for TV shows. But I get it. I bet it's 10x that.
And
for
most of the budget probably went to this specific episode.
Yeah, they listening. I think I talked about this one on when we talked about other series like Obi-Wan or whatever. The Office Ladies podcast I listen to all the time. The one time they talked about, we get X amount of dollars a season to spend on the shows. Normally they try to keep it, pretty even across all of them. But every once in a while, they'll have a big episode. So they'll have to pull money from other episodes. So other episodes will be less exciting and will just be strictly in the bullpen.
Mm-hmm.
So that way they can have this other one where they go to all these remote places and stuff, and it costs $50,000, $100,000 more than the other episode does. And like you said, this one probably was the one that cost 5 times more than the other ones did.
Yeah. And 80% of that just went to de-aging
Anakin.
which, by the way, looked great.
It did. Considering last week's when he just stood there, it looked really bad.
Yeah, I don't know that it looked really bad, but it looked
Off
enough that it was distracting, which makes it bad.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I didn't even notice it at all in the episode. They made it,
And they definitely made him different in each
different stages
of
just like they did with
the
her.
dream. Yeah.
Yeah. We should just get into it then, shouldn't we? Let's.
Yeah. So one real fast. Hera. If you're going to Disneyland, Hera and Chopper are showing up and walking around every once in a while. So that's new. They're there, and Ahsoka was there a couple weeks ago. She showed up, I think, at the beginning of the Ahsoka series.
Do you think it was Rosario Dawson?
It was not.
Ah, bummer.
Oh yeah. There was somebody that I follow on Instagram, and she's a huge Ahsoka fan. She stood by the entranceway to where the cast members come out for 3 hours.
Wow.
Waiting for, and then mobbed her immediately. You could see that cast member was annoyed,
Yeah.
but then also remembered, oh, I got to get back in character.
Right.
Because the girl like ran up to her with her phone like this and was like, ah. And the person, and Ahsoka was like, I took 2 steps. Like, let me start walking.
I'm still
first.
a little hungover. Like,
So
give me a second.
Give me a second. I've just been sitting in makeup for 4 hours.
right.
Like, give me a second here. So there's a Hera and a Chopper. And this one, Inverse website says 40 years later, Star Wars just fixed the worst part of Anakin Skywalker.
All right, that seems like a pretty clickbaity title.
Yeah. So it says, is Anakin finally likable again? So the whole article basically comes down to, in the movies when we saw Hayden Christensen, it was all about him turning to the dark side. So he was angry the whole time. He hates
that translated to whiny.
Right.
Right.
He hated sand.
It got everywhere.
It got everywhere. It was
rough.
coarse. He hated kids.
Younglings.
Really
hated younglings.
Really
And
hated
we saw,
younglings.
I think they drove that point home in episode
They did.
3.
Yeah. He was angry that he couldn't.
Hated sand people.
He hated sand people. He was angry that he couldn't be in his relationship with Padme that he wanted to be in, and he was angry that she was
wasn't a master.
pregnant and he wasn't a master, and blah blah blah.
It's outrageous.
It was outrageous. So
It's
he
unfair.
was a bratty kid who hasn't gotten his way in the movies, but then in Clone Wars, the series,
We got to see him.
be human
Yeah.
and have a fun side, have a more likable side before he started to really get tainted by the dark side and hate sand and everything else. So they're saying now that we saw him in this episode being more likable, like when they did the flashbacks, he was more
We got
positive.
To see, yeah,
we got to see a
got
positive
to see
side
him
of him.
as like not every second of screen time they had him had to like show that he was going to the dark side.
Right.
This is not that. This is something else.
Yeah, this is him trying to
And
lead and trying to.
It's also specifically, and again we'll talk about it then, but like it's specifically not light or dark side. It's kind of both.
right.
So like it's not about necessarily. I don't know. It's very clever what they did with it.
Yeah. So they're saying that this, changes the worst part of Anakin Skywalker because nobody watches the cartoons who aren't hardcore Star Wars fans. And other people now watch the live action, and the fact that we see this in the live action, this is now a huge breakthrough for Anakin.
No, it isn't.
Yeah.
Because like Star Wars has always been, Star Wars has always been like, this is the story. Hey, a couple years pass until the next movie. What do we? Let's release some comic books.
Yeah.
Or let's release a couple books, and we don't get to see on screen like what happens in those, but like they still matter. Like we all know in episode 7, episode 7 that Han and Leia were married.
Right.
Right. Like we didn't have to see that on the screen, but like. How would you know? Like, unless you were a hardcore fan, you connect the dots and you realize that there's other media out there that it continues this story.
Yeah.
And that's always how Star Wars has been.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's been a compilation of
So,
multiple different.
And I understand the people who like, the cartoon thing is a barrier for them. But like, if you want to be a Star Wars fan, figure it out. Like,
yeah.
Even like I wasn't great when I was a kid about reading the extended universe books, but I Wikipedia'd a lot.
Oh yeah, and you can go down
like,
Wikipedia.
You get lost down there for days.
For days, yeah.
No, and I like. There's loads of stuff that now that I'm listening to some of those old books, I'm like, I knew this, but I didn't know the depth. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So I got a pretty extensive, broad knowledge of Star Wars things. But again, I didn't have that depth just because I didn't read the books. I found my wormholes.
Yeah. So that's that. So all right, so let's dig deep into it right after this commercial break.
This episode is brought to you by Skinny Pop Popcorn. Perfectly popped, endlessly delicious. Oh, so light and crunchy. Skinny Pop Original Popcorn is the snack you've been searching for. Made with just 3 simple ingredients: popcorn kernels, sunflower oil, and salt. Snacking never felt or tasted so good. Perfectly popped, endlessly delicious. Give yourself permission to snack and pick up Skinny Pop Original Popcorn today.
Nick is dancing.
Very so.
Very so. All right. I think we're ready. All right. So,
Insert ad there. Anyway.
And yes, enjoy that show. Enjoy that ad.
Buy that product. Send me money.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the main event. What we've
This
all
is the
been
main
waiting
event.
for.
This is why we're here.
This, my friends. Let me tell you why I brought you here today. So yeah, this episode has made the last 4 worth it.
Yes.
I feel like as we talk about this episode right now, we should split it into 2 sections: the real world section and the world between worlds section.
Right.
Because I feel like we'll be jumping around a lot otherwise.
Yes.
Right. So why don't we start with the boring stuff, and by that I mean the stuff that's in the real world.
The real world, especially our good friend, Robot Friend, who's sad.
Because he said one thing. One thing is all I said.
I just said, stay together.
They distinctly
And
don't listen.
They
He
don't
just said,
listen to
they
me.
don't listen.
They don't listen.
And he was
He's holding Sabine's helmet, which means, eventually he's going to give it back to her.
I'm still annoyed at that.
That her helmet fell off.
Yeah, I'm still like, it's just so silly. Like, we've seen so many Mandalorians fighting, and we've never seen the only one we've seen fall off
is hers now. Yes.
No, there's one other.
Oh,
Jango
Fett.
We definitely saw that one fall off.
Yeah, and how
but those were very specific circumstances.
But not only did we see it fall off, but Boba picked up the helmet,
and it did not slosh
His
out.
head did not fall out.
So it's clearly in there, and it's locked on.
It's locked on somehow. So the fact that Sabine's helmet was not, his head got cut off, and his head still stayed inside the helmet.
Oh man! So again, this annoys me more than it should, but it still annoys me.
It's very annoying. Yes.
So anyway, so he's like, "Oh, those darn kids! They never listen." And so we get a little politics insight, right? They're like, "Hey, Senator Organa, wink, wink, can only cover for you for so long."
Yeah, she can only give us cover for so long.
I wonder who that senator is.
There's only one Senator Organa. Yeah,
and at this point,
alive at this point in time,
she would be still the senator of the Alderaan sector.
Mm-hmm.
There were other planets in that sector. So now there are fewer. But
right. One, especially one big one fewer.
Yeah.
Yes,
its namesake.
So she does it. I didn't write down the name of the book, but there was a book that talks about this a lot more detailed. That she did disagree with the politics of this time, which is what leads to episode 7 of the movies when she has her rebellious group. The rebels are back again because they're no longer in power. But she didn't agree with the way the politics were going as a whole. So that's why she didn't have a problem right now covering for Hera and doing a little deception there and whatever they said.
Once a rebel, always a rebel.
Once a rebel, always a rebel. Yeah. So so we got that going on. Do we want to just do all of the real? No, because and the rest of the real world stuff comes after.
Is that pretty much all? Well, there's also Jason.
Jason's real world.
So Jason, like we see him. First of all, they remind the audience about specifically in words now.
Yes.
About Kanan.
Right.
It's the first time he's been mentioned by name. Mm-hmm. And something else I didn't notice until I saw someone point out is that there's actually a picture of Kanan on the dashboard
of the
Ghost, which is there during the Clone Wars or during Rebels as well, which is pretty cool.
Okay, yes. Yeah, and Jason's jacket, he has the same pauldron on that his dad had on the one shoulder.
Yeah. And they're giving little Jason some more acting and screen time than I had hoped.
But not a lot of lines, so he's not butchering too much stuff.
You know what it is? He doesn't know what to do with his hands.
He did it when they're like, okay, there's going to be a ship that flies overhead of you.
You just need to look at it and look cool. This is your moment just to stand there.
And you see his arms are just like...
I feel bad because, it's a kid. But like we've said before, in a world of Stranger Things child actors,
Yeah.
there just doesn't seem to be an excuse for a crappy actor.
Yeah.
On a
Whether
big
you're
thing like this, you know?
12 or 62, like there's plenty of actors out there that would do a much better
But
job.
you know, he's not so bad that he's distracting. He's just because I'm a nitpicker.
You're nitpicker over, and
we do have a podcast after all,
right? And
you
this
know?
is what sells tickets is being angry apparently.
Stupid. But he does the Force thing where like the grown-ups are talking and he's like, "Mom, listen."
Hera was getting pulled in every direction. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, she's just trying to make ends meet, and everyone's like,
Yeah.
I got my kid says he needs this, and I got my friends telling me this, and I got my work telling me that, and I just need a spa day, and I'm just saying." But so like,
when does Hera get a break? When does Hera get Hera time? That's what she's asking everybody.
She's penciling it in. Not anytime soon.
Not anytime soon. I'll tell you, no way.
But so it's the classic. The parents are ignoring the kid, but the kid is wiser than that. And
Wiser,
you should really listen.
yes. Listen to me.
And then they do something that Kanan did with Hera in Rebels, where like he was telling her to open up to the Force essentially, and he hurt. So like, you know, again, whether that's just hinting that Hera also has always been Force sensitive, or else just kind of more driving home this anyone is Force sensitive sort of a thing.
Yeah, where she can also, if you sit back, relax, you can feel the same thing that other people who are more Force sensitive
You can hear the pretty
well.
lightsabers.
You can hear the lightsabers.
Yeah.
No, listen to the waves. No, not the waves, Mom. The lightsabers.
Yeah, that was weird. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you expect something a little more ethereal and esoteric. Like, no, not the waves. Listen deep. You know, it's like the monkey. Was it not Musafa? Whatever the monkey is from Lion King.
Yeah.
No, you have to look deep. No, but so you know, it's you have to listen for the lightsabers. Oh,
okay. Let me
you think
listen.
I would have caught that the first time? They sound pretty different than waves, but all of a sudden again, sure.
No, I hear it. Yeah.
There they are. No. If you squint, you know, and you like really, you hear 'em. Yeah.
And then Carter was cracking me up because he was like, "What?" Like,
yeah. He was essentially anyone who didn't watch the Clone Rebels.
Rebels.
You know, is essentially like they're all just like, "What the hell is going on? I don't understand."
Who are
this.
you? What is going on? What are you doing here?
And then like it was like I guess Hu Yang essentially like in a sentence catches everyone up to speed, and now everyone just supposed to go.
He's the narrator on the.
All right.
His dad was Kanan Jarrus. He was a Jedi. You're caught up now. Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And he's like, all right, that works. Let's
All
go
right,
do this.
okay.
You know? Now
Yeah,
I'm up to speed.
His response was so like, "Oh, cool.
Yep.
Oh yeah, it is Star Wars. So
Yep.
I'm sure somebody's a Jedi around here."
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you know, I guess the word Jedi, you know, even at that point, you hear that, you go, oh, well, the Jedi. They said Jedi, that's Jedi.
Got to go with it.
Trust the Jedi.
Trust the Jedi.
Trust the fungus. You know where that's
That's
from?
right.
Trust
No.
the fungus?
No, let's trust the fungus.
That's the OG Super Mario Brothers movie
the one.
with Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo.
Okay.
So, like, you know, the
Surprisingly,
fungus
I didn't
was...
see that.
Did you never seen that movie?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
So when we are in a dirge of Star Wars content,
Okay.
we need to do a Bantha Milk reaction video, like live reaction to that movie.
Okay, to the original.
It's one of my favorite movies of all
No
time.
way. Okay.
It is one of the worst movies of all time. It's so bad, and I, as an adult, I recognize this. I loved it as a kid. I still love watching it because it's nostalgic, but it's so bad.
From 1993.
Yeah. So I was 5 when it came out.
Looking at the trailer and
It's ridiculous, but there's some really funny parts. But like the whole big thing is that the fungus, like the toadstools and stuff.
okay.
That they're actually the king. He was turned into fungus by Koopa, King Koopa,
Okay.
who is played by Dennis Hopper.
Yes, I see Dennis Hopper, King Koopa,
Yeah.
Samantha Manis as Daisy.
And so like every now and then he'll encounter the fungus somewhere and like it'll save him. And so at some point he like grabs a mushroom and he's like, trust the fungus. And he like puts out in front of him and it acts as a shield and stuff.
Trust the fungus. There you go. Well, there you go.
So anyway.
We'll have to watch that, and then we'll watch Dude, Where's My Car?
Oh my God. Yeah, those are two we definitely need to watch.
It's 86 minutes with credits, and it's the worst
So
movie of all time.
So we should, I guess, now travel back into the realm.
Yeah, so let's go.
Right?
So the whole purpose of this is Ahsoka's story. This is Ahsoka.
Let me ask
her
you, Rob,
trial.
Is it a dream, in your opinion? Is it a dream? Anakin, is he really Anakin? If he's Anakin, is he a Force ghost or is he a memory? Or is it all in Ahsoka's head?
So I don't think the whole thing was a dream because of the psychedelic end when she's standing there and the water was rising on her.
Right.
It's like she found a portal because we're real close to the Night Sisters area, whatever you want to call that area there. I don't know what you want to call it, whatever. Temple, but it's not a temple, but whatever.
Whatever that site is.
The Night Sisters site. Perfect.
The little place where they put the ball.
Yeah. So since we're so dangerously close to that, these portals to get into the world between worlds, because Ezra in the Rebels closed one of them by breaking the wall that you transported through platform 9 3/4 to get into it. So he broke that portal. So there's portals to get into it. So they're located near other Jedi temples and things like that.
Things
so since
of great Force consequence.
So since the Night Sisters control Force as well and are strong with the Force, this is probably a portal that she just happened to fall into. She could have fallen if she fell 3 feet to the right or 3 feet to the left. She would have missed it completely.
And of course, what's the explanation? It's Star Wars.
It's Star Wars. The Force.
The Force is
so the Force pulled her down. Yeah, willed
to
her
fall to that
yeah.
exact spot.
Yeah. So I think she did fall into a portal into the world between worlds. That part wasn't a dream, but was Anakin real is a good question because we didn't see her. Like when we saw it in Rebels, he pulled her through the portal to get her into the world between worlds. We didn't see him come through a different portal to finish the training.
Right.
And I don't know. What do you think? I think it's a vision that she has of him. Force Ghost, maybe, but it wasn't blue like all the other Force Ghosts that we've seen. But it could be like a vision of him in her memory because she was remembering specific times.
So if we were talking about this 2 or 3 weeks ago, I would say it wasn't really Anakin.
Okay.
But things got so weird with this episode. I'm allowing for a lot weirder theories that make sense. But, but I could never see gut flying. I'm allowing for a lot more of those. So I agree that it really wasn't just in her head. I think it was Anakin.
Okay.
I don't think it was a memory.
Okay.
And I don't think it was a Force ghost.
Okay.
And like one of my next questions, and the question that was always in the back of my head while I was watching that first time was, is this like if it's not, is it Anakin? Or is it like some malevolent force that's projecting Anakin, right?
Okay.
Like trying to deceive her.
Yeah.
But I think it's Anakin.
Okay.
The things that jump out to me are, the first one is when she says, "I won't fight you," and he says, "I've heard that before."
Right.
Right. So my immediate thought was, oh, he's calling back to
when Luke said that.
See, that wasn't my first thought, actually.
Okay.
Because that's what it was calling back to.
Okay.
But my first thought was, oh, it's like when he fought her at Malachor.
Right.
But she didn't say, "I won't fight you." She said, "I won't leave you."
Okay.
And so I forgot about that.
Okay.
But that's what he was referencing. He was referencing his fight with Luke.
Right.
She doesn't know that. She wasn't there.
True. Yeah.
You know, so that's one big clue, I think, that this is not in her head. This is actually Vader post-death.
Okay.
Right? This is like, he has already died. This is Anakin. I don't think he's a Force ghost. I think he's something more than that.
Okay.
Like this Chosen One prophecy
Okay.
right? Like means that he is different. He's set aside. And he clearly had some physical manifestation in this world between worlds. And the world between worlds is like the connection between the physical world and the cosmic force. And there's you can go down a whole rabbit hole on that. But specifically, like that's the deal, is like when you die, you either become one with the force, and that means you join the cosmic force. And Qui-Gon was super into that. Or you can, stay behind, leaving and so the world between worlds acts as a conduit for that. But because of who he is, like I think that separates him as something that can grow into something more.
Okay.
And I think he still has a larger role to play in the Force as the one prophesied to bring balance. And I think that's evidenced later on when they're fighting, when Ahsoka and him fight. I think that, so his eyes change colors, right?
Yep.
What color do they change?
They change to yellow.
So they don't go yellow. They go red.
Oh.
Right? I'll double check. I'm almost positive if you check, it's like a glowing red.
Okay.
Like it's very distinct because like we've seen him with yellow eyes, and at one point we see Ahsoka with yellow eyes.
In
this episode.
In
this episode, we get like a flash.
Okay.
It's the kind of like
it's
a reflection of the red in her eyes.
Yes, and that could also lead to her showing that she could also go to the dark side.
And in that moment, you could tell it was like a struggle. But it was just before she let go.
Because she did say in episode 2 of this season about how when she got the information from the Dark Sister, what's her name?
Morgan Elsbeth,
that it wasn't the way it was not according to Jedi protocol.
Yeah, it wasn't standard Jedi protocol.
Yeah,
right.
So it was definitely showing that she has tendencies to the dark side.
Sure. And so they've been leaning into this balance thing and light and dark. And so I kind of see his role like the only time we've seen yellow eyes is purely dark side users, Sith, right?
Okay.
So like Anakin, Darth Vader had it. Sidious had it. Maul had it. It's very nice. It's very nice. It sounds like Tom Amin is just playing for us.
He is. Tom Amin's playing in the background.
Because you're distracting me there.
Sorry. I was trying to give you some background music.
My brain can barely focus as it is today.
I was giving you background music. Sorry.
What was I talking about?
Talking about the dark side, how she's...
Yes. So like the yellow on the eyes isn't like, oh, he's bad, so his eyes turn yellow. It's supposed to be a product of the dark side corrupting your body.
Okay.
And literally twisting your body.
Okay.
We see that in all the dark side users. The one character that stands out that had glowing red eyes and not yellow was the brother on Mortis, where the brother, the sister, and the
brother,
father.
Sister, the father.
And he was like a physical manifestation of the dark side.
Right.
So it almost seems like, because both of them died,
yes,
it almost seems like that's what he has become. He's become the physical embodiment of both dark and light.
Have you seen all the posts on Facebook, and I'm sure it's on Instagram as well, replacing that painting of the father, the brother, and the sister with Anakin as the father.
Okay.
And then Ahsoka as the sister. And then I want to say it was like Kylo as the brother or something like that. And saying that she's the good and Kylo's the bad and whatever. But there's everyone that posted it, there's 900 replies as to why that can't be the case.
And, everyone's going to have their own opinion, and we'll see what it turns out to be. But, I think his, again, because of his status as the chosen one, and I think he's, he had the ability to move on. He wasn't you're supposed to, train, in order to, leave your imprint and stay behind. Yoda had to do it, and Qui-Gon had to do it, and Obi-Wan had to do it, but he didn't because he died before he did. I think partially that's because he's the chosen one and he has this special purpose.
Okay.
But he also he had a lot of wrongs that he wanted to right. He changed sides last minute. He had a change of heart. He became Anakin again.
Yes.
But it was only for 20 minutes and then he croaked. Right. And so he still had more he wanted to teach, especially Ahsoka as his apprentice out there. But I think that just because of his unique role in the universe, I think it's possible that number one, I think for sure it was him.
Okay.
But I think it's possible that he is this other type of thing, and that he might be a physical manifestation of both. And I love how they displayed it too, because like it wasn't like a dark side vision or anything. He was this being that was using both dark and light. In his fight with Ahsoka, he was fighting just like when he was Anakin in the movies. Like,
yes,
the form was like identical. It looked awesome. And then when he had his like dark side switch, and it's like really the only true time so far we've seen Anakin as Darth Vader, without the as he would have been, you know what I mean?
Right.
Essentially what Darth Vader would have been had he not gotten toasted. But like everything changes, like just his aggressiveness,
and even like in that scene that you're talking about, it's when he like knocked her down and he's like, "You're going to die now," or whatever he said, something along those lines. And he's like walking towards her, and it flashes between him and Darth Vader, and his lightsaber goes from blue to red.
That was the way they did that every now and then. Yeah. That was a cool way to do that.
And then at the end, his lightsaber was red when he had the glowing eyes. Mm-hmm. And he was much more aggressive. And even when he knocked her down, he even did a little like flex at her, like you got nothing on me type of thing, which was that more angry Darth Vader-esque persona that you're speaking of.
And I think that's part of his like arc, which clearly isn't over, right? Is that he is recognizing the light and the dark in him, and trying to account for all the wrongs that he did commit. Yeah. But it's cool just to see that, like, this isn't a being of pure light, and he's redeemed. He's Anakin. He's trying to impart wisdom on you, but he's using the darkness in him to also do that. And what Ahsoka's been essentially doing has been running, right? And
so she's been really angry because she feels like she let him down, and she has like survivor's remorse at this point.
But at the same time, she's like afraid of that because of like, look what he did. Mm-hmm. Look what I'm capable of. Right. And that she talks a lot about her legacy and what what's she going to like, is that what all I'm going to teach my apprentice one day is how to fight. Right. And the way they did the flashbacks were amazing.
Yeah. So the first flashback, so when she first faces off with Anakin, and they're on the bridge,
like the Rainbow Road from Mario Kart.
Yes. When they're on the bridge, and then he cuts it in half, and her half falls, and then she's just falling.
She's like, I haven't taught you everything. For starters, I have not told you that I can just cut this bridge in half. I can
cut this bridge in half. And
now you know.
now you have to have a fall to, and I'm like, where is she falling to? Right. And then suddenly the first flashback she goes to is the Siege of Ryloth, which is from the Clone Wars when the two of them were together. And then she goes and she's much younger. She's back in time.
They did an awesome
awesome
job showing like really close, really very close to the Clone Wars cartoon in both the way it looked and kind of the way things like felt and the way they moved. But like they did an awesome job showing not even just the time, but like the actresses that they got to play Ahsoka during those different times. It might have been the same actor.
It was Ariana Greenblatt.
Okay.
Is the girl that played in both scenes young Ahsoka.
Okay, so she played the younger and the older one?
And the older one, but they changed her Leku and everything like that.
She was, first of all, she's an awesome actor. Like
she was in the Barbie movie, which you didn't see, neither did I. Yeah. And she was also young Gamora in... now
in Infinity War or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Now that you're mentioning it, I'm seeing it and it makes sense. She was great. I was like, every time she was on, like saying stuff, it was like, this is what I mean when I talk about like a child actress that like can actually get it. Like there was attitude, and she sounded like
Snips. She acted like Snips.
And even like the way she fought, like she had one in this, it was the green lightsaber at the time, and it was just the one. And as she's running behind Anakin, she's like panickingly deflecting bolts. It's not like the Jedi like boing boing. It's just that. Whoa,
like, oh, there's
gosh,
one. There's one. Yeah.
And like that's like if you look at the beginning of Clone Wars, that's kind of what she was doing.
Yeah.
And then when she comes back for like her Siege of Mandalore thing, she is like, when we think of, again, one of my favorite moments in Star Wars ever was her
jumping off of the
down
ship.
And that, you know, that's essentially, you know, 10 minutes after this. You
Yeah,
know, she just jumped out of a ship, you know, 3 miles high,
bouncing on
jumped
other
between
people
other ships
and
landed on the ground.
Yeah,
like, and
without
now
a parachute.
Yeah.
See, the I don't know, were they clone troopers she was with, or were they Mandalorians? I think they were Mandalorians she was with.
Well, she was fighting Mandalorians, and then this is when she had her own squadron. Remember,
her
that
own
had
squadron
the
that they painted.
helmets?
Yeah. So they were like, "You forgot your jetpack." She's like, "I'm okay," and she just takes off.
Well, it's essentially like the moment in the first Avengers movie where like Cap jumps out without a parachute.
Okay, yeah,
It's like, there's only one God, ma'am, and he doesn't dress like that.
That's right. So she was upset because in the Siege of Ryloth, she was upset that they're warriors because she was trained and told that Jedi are peacemakers, and that's what Qui-Gon had said before. That's what even Samuel L. Jackson said at one point. Mace Windu.
Yeah.
You know, for thousands of years, Jedis have been peacemakers.
Yeah.
And in a couple different movies and TV clips and stuff, they show that they're like, we can't fight your war for you. You know, and then in the Clone Wars,
to fight their wars for them.
Yeah, and they were saying, Ryan Arey was saying, this is why all of the Jedi got wiped out, because they were fighting in the Clone Wars,
right,
instead of being the peacemakers that they're supposed to be,
right.
And that's how they wound up getting killed, because they were being the warriors. They weren't being themselves. They weren't being what they were supposed to be.
Yeah. And apparently, and again, it's making me so angry because I want to play it so badly. Apparently, this is a pretty central theme in Jedi Survivor.
Yes.
Where Cal Kestis is like grappling with the fact that, you know, the Jedi are supposed to be peacekeepers, but he feels like all he's been doing is fighting.
Yes.
So that's, again, I guess, a core thing they're exploring in Star Wars right now.
Yes, 100%.
Because they don't realize, you know why? No one's going to freaking buy tickets to a movie to come see you play peer mediator with someone else and not take out your lightsaber. That's why.
Anakin said, when Obi-Wan taught me we were keepers of the peace, which is going back to this peacekeeper thing. That's what he said to her at one point in time.
And he's got the rad armor that he wore in Clone Wars. Which is also very reminiscent of his Vader armor, which is kind of, I think, what they were going for.
Yeah, the pattern in his chest and his chest plate and shoulder plate is very similar to the way Vader's armor looks at exactly the same time. And then we go to the next fight, where they're at the Siege of Mandalore.
She's got blue lightsabers now.
She has blue lightsabers now.
And she's pretty good with them, clearly.
Yeah, and then
she's slicing up a Death Watch member.
Yeah, so they were all the Death Watch because they had the horns on, which they were Mandalorians who followed Maul, which, once again, you know, you even said it before about the armor having the spikes on her head.
Yeah, but these ones were much more pronounced.
These were much more pronounced, yes.
They were like almost cartoonishly pronounced, but that's what they were trying to portray anyway. But
some of the clones in this scene that ran past Ahsoka, we did see Rex.
Yep.
We saw Rex, and in the closed captioning, it did say Rex says this. And then there were other clones that ran past, and at least one of them had the Ahsoka painted face on as they ran by. I was thinking I would love to be one of those background characters. It's like
you said it on this pod many times. Like, you be set for cons for life.
Yeah,
I'm that guy.
That's me.
See that one? Wait, no, rewind.
Yeah.
There.
Right there.
Rewind.
You just
pause. Okay, you got it. That's me. Right there.
Screenshot, giant poster.
This guy behind that.
Yep,
that's me, yeah.
That's me. The guy behind the other guy. I'll sell my autograph for $10.
Love it.
So some of the clones. Yep, we got that. Anakin coming.
So some of the
towards her.
complaints that I've heard about this part, and I agree to an extent, was that the fog of war was too thick. They would have liked to have seen
More of
what was going on. But like we talked about, I think just about most of the budget for this went to the CGI on the face.
Yeah, and I think it's at that point it's all about budget.
Yeah.
Like if you had an extra $100 million, you could make this the most elaborate thing ever.
Yeah. Like, would it have been cool to see more? Yes. It didn't make or break anything for me.
No.
And they used it stylistically to create an aesthetic, which I get.
And they made the big war seem small where they were. Like if they would have spent another $10 million on this scene to add 700 more clone troopers running and a bigger thing, it would have been cool. Yes.
But I don't care about that.
But I don't care about that.
None of us care about that. We all care about what's happening in the relationship between Ahsoka and Anakin.
Yeah, and we don't need all
That's
that
why we're
extra
watching.
filler. Yeah, like having 6 guys run past is all I needed.
Yep.
You could see the AT,
ET or AT,
yeah, whatever
which one that is.
You could see them in the background a little bit. You knew they were in a war. And then even when they're in the scene where all the clones are injured and there's the medical droid,
Right.
there's one medical droid. I didn't need to see 100 injured guys in the background and a bunch of back to tanks and whatever. You knew what was happening. You could tell.
And it was they were trying to evoke like feelings of like the World War II, like when you'd have like triage in the trenches.
In the trenches, yeah.
But that's fine. We you've spent enough this season trying to point us at look at this. Just let us. I get what you're setting up.
Yeah,
it worked.
It worked
really well.
Yeah, I would not have complained about that at all.
And like I mentioned, it's the focus here that everyone is like. Was it an awesome lightsaber battle? Yes. It was a great lightsaber battle. I would watch it 1 billion times. But I'm not fast forwarding through their banter to get to there.
Right.
Because the banter is
what's setting it up.
And it's the first time we've seen these two in live action interact.
Yeah.
And like again, if you're someone like us who have like been invested in these characters, like that's a big deal to see them portrayed this way and to see some closure on a lot of these things.
And they spent so much time and detail with the 2 different scenes taking place years apart from each other. Anakin looked different. Anakin was wearing different clothes. Ahsoka looked different.
He was clearly,
aged up.
but not,
She was aged up. Her Lekka were different. Her outfit was different. Everything.
Her confidence, she held herself differently. She clearly fought a lot more ferociously. Yeah.
And if you watched the Clone Wars or even Rebels, when they're going for that shot, they're matching it. But now you're seeing a live action version of this, which is really cool because I like the cartoons. They were good, but there's just something more special about seeing it in real life.
Yep.
Which was awesome. And I didn't even care that the de-aging process was slightly off. I didn't
notice it at all. It never once was like, only in not this episode, but the one before it when I was like, oh, it was this a little off.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like during this episode, there wasn't a single time where I was like, oh, this looks weird. It always looked good.
I also think because in it with everything else being so foggy, it definitely added to the smoothness of the de-aging process.
It obscured the edges maybe a little bit, and
so it really blended in a lot better. If you wanted to be nitpicky, you could find parts that looked off. But if you just wanted to sit back and enjoy the show, you could really enjoy this episode a lot because there wasn't anything that was really standing out like, oh, why did they do that type of thing? Like CGI de-aging wise.
Yep.
So they fight again on the Siege of Mandalore, and all of this is him teaching her and showing her that it wasn't all her fault that he did what happened, and she doesn't need the survivor's remorse that she's been carrying around with her for all this time until this is her trial.
And not only remorse, too, I think, aside from remorse, I think fear that, and I mentioned fear that it's in her, but like, what did coming out of this, what did she think led to all this was Anakin's attachment to Padme.
Yeah.
Right. And so she spent years being terrified of attachment.
Right.
Right. Whether it be with her Padawan. So she's been wandering essentially for years with a droid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, and she even with Ezra, she was saying, we might have to,
we might have to just not go get him.
What I mean?
Yeah.
There might not be hope for him.
Right. Yeah.
And like, that's pretty like alienating and like dehumanizing thought. But like she was like that's what happened to Anakin. So there's a reason Jedi are not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
But then I think she through this realizes that that happened, but that wasn't because of his attachment. That was because of his fear.
Right.
His fear over losing her. His fear over her death. Like that's what happened. And so she, by the end of it, when she's the white, she's more playful, more interested in people, more hopeful. Because like she realizes that relationships and building like connections with people is like a good thing.
A good thing. Yeah.
Like Yoda at one point even specifically says like love, like attachment is like not what we're supposed to do, but love is like you're supposed to love everyone, right? Like that's and so it's like this philosophical difference, I guess, in what you're going at. But she was seeing the issue very black and white.
Yes.
Which is the Force, right? People looked at it too black and white, and like everything, like there's gray area.
Yeah. Yep. So
the Force is a spectrum.
The Force is a spectrum. There's all colors in the Force. So then they come out of that battle, and they're back on the bridge again, and now Anakin. This is when Anakin is like,
full Vader
he
mode.
goes full Vader mode on her, and he's gonna take her down. Red lightsaber.
And it was
angry.
interesting the way they got into it, because like the whole thing, like she basically brought up his turn, the dark side, and he was like, "Oh, that."
That.
Oh, you're talking about that? It's like, oh yeah, that. Anakin.
Oh yeah, that.
Can we cut the BS and maybe talk about that for a second?
Yeah, let's talk about how you turn to the dark side for a
for
second.
20 years.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that?
Can we talk about that, please?
Last time I saw you, we were fighting.
Yeah.
Can we talk? Yeah. So yeah, it was funny that like that's kind of like that's not the point of this. I'm not here about that.
We're not here about me. We're here
Stay
about
on
you.
task.
Stay on task here.
This is so like you.
So they're a great fight scene, and there's an article also that I saw this week about the lightsabers are better now than they were before because they're able to. They now have the batteries. So going back into the 70s and 80s, the lightsabers were just silver sticks. That they went over and drew the glowingness over top of. Then they got kind of like the lightsaber that's behind me, where it's physically glowing in real life now. So you're able to do a lot more with
and
it.
You can see like luminosity.
Yeah. So you get a lot more realism out of it. But those lightsabers had battery packs that they had to run up their arms, down their sleeves, and around their back and stuff. So their movement was a little bit limited because they had all these extra wires running up and down their arms. Now, the lightsabers that they used in this episode or in this season, I guess, now have enough battery power inside the hilt themselves that they're just like the build your own, but obviously better because I think they can take more damage, more of a beating.
Swung around. And
yeah.
stuff, yeah.
But like the ones that you can get at Disney World now, where everything is self-contained. So now they're able to do a lot more with real glowing lightsabers than George Lucas could ever do with any of his movies. So there's a whole big article, I mean, not big articles, 2 paragraphs and 21 ads about how the lightsabers are now self-contained and they're so much better and stuff. So that, I think, added to how good the lightsaber battles were in this because they were able to manipulate them so much easier and so much better. But so they're fighting and she beats them.
Essentially.
She essentially beats him,
But only after she essentially confronts her own darkness.
yes,
Right? Because they have that moment where he's pushing her and like, you're going to die. And you see like that what typically is, happens in most people. Like when someone gets angry, there's usually not, I got angry. It's usually like, I was scared and therefore I reacted by being angry. Or
Yeah.
I felt hurt and therefore I reacted by being, like anger is a byproduct.
right.
And so you see her, her fear is growing. She thinks she's going to lose. And then all of a sudden, she gets up in his face. We get this glow in her and her eyes are red and yellow.
Yeah,
Right. Just for that second. And you see her face gets contorted and she's angry.
she's angry. She's ready to turn to the dark side.
And
also,
she's essentially about to, Dooku him, like, do it. Like,
Do it.
chop his head off.
Yeah.
And she's like, nah, bro. And then
Nope.
she pulls a Luke, like at the end of Luke, and throws the lightsaber away.
Yeah.
And he's like, you might just make it yet, kid.
Yeah, yeah. And then she turns and he's gone.
Yeah.
So
He pulls a Batman exit.
He does pull a Batman exit. He just disappears on her.
Now, if you had like waited just a little bit and looked under that particular part of the bridge, he was just like dangling.
He was
just
hanging
like,
there. Yeah. He's
Please
like,
go. My arms hurt.
hopefully she won't see me hanging out here. Yeah. And then that's when she gets to this
comes to.
psychedelic drowning. The water starts pouring up over her.
Yeah.
And then I think this is the strangest scene for me in the series so far. She's floating. And going back to the real world, because Jason knew that
fly lower.
But how low? As low as you can go.
Yeah, how low?
So they're like flying over the water, hoping that they're going to fly into the portal. Maybe, I guess that's what her goal was.
I was like thinking, like, are they just gonna fly in and then all of a sudden they're just gonna be in this place with their ship?
Or is she gonna like smash through like a mirror?
Right.
Like there's a mirror there, so that you can't see the world within world. Psh, you're just gonna break it. So whatever reason, she was trying to find the lightsabers, and then they flew. I guess they flew low enough, and they saw her floating there in the ocean. The ghost didn't bother me as much floating there, but then there were people swimming and getting her. And I'm like, where did these people come from? And then you see the two other X-Wings just floating above the ocean.
Yeah.
With their lights on.
They had him in autopilot.
They had him in
Had
autopilot.
him in neutral. They were
Yeah.
just kind of parked to the side.
So I'm like, okay, you could park it in autopilot, jump out, go into the ocean, but how are you going to get back into it now? Because it's floating 8 feet above the water.
Maybe the ghost will give him.
The
just
ghost
that
is going to fly up
8-foot
and let
lift.
them, drop them. I don't know. It was just, I know that they had to make something.
I was thinking some similar things to you because my thought was, oh look at this rando who came in and saved her. I guess they didn't want to have to worry about waterproof makeup for more than just her.
Right, yeah.
I was amazed that she was underwater and everything looked great.
Yeah.
But like I can only imagine like Hera jumping in and then having to deal with her green makeup
Right,
and
the
stuff.
green makeup as well. Yeah.
So I was like, all right, well they couldn't send Jason in. They had to send the red shirts in.
Yeah, so they sent the two red shirts in to save her. And I guess eventually they get back into their X-Wing somehow. But that was like, I'm like, what? Like
The
that
self-driving.
Was the self-driving X-Wing. Yeah, maybe they
They're
push a
Teslas.
button. They're
So they
Teslas.
just
They push a button and then they go and they'll land by themselves.
Yeah.
They're self-landing. They're like drones that
Yeah.
self-land. Yeah. So they save her from the ocean, and then she gets up onto the ramp and is immediately dry, which is must be part of her. She's
the
the
Force.
only. Well, this is the Force. She's the only one of her species that we've ever seen. Yes, no.
I mean, in maybe this, but we've seen other Togruta in like other things.
Okay, that's what
I'm
that's what
trying
her
to think of-
species is a Togrute.
Yeah, Togruta. I'm trying to see what else we might have seen one. Oh, shut up.
Oh,
So Togruta. So yeah, Shakti is a Togruta.
okay.
Shakti is this Jedi Master,
Oh, okay. Yes, I remember. Okay,
right? Trying to see if there's any other. That
her
we might
Leku
know.
were very long.
Yes. Supreme. There was a Supreme Chancellor who was Togruta, I guess. But Shakti is the one that comes to mind.
Okay. It's just funny to me every once in a while, like when they introduce a new species in Star Wars or any type of science fiction thing, and you're like, where's the rest of them? You know, like for the longest time, the only Wookiee that we've ever seen was Chewbacca, and then the Ewoks were originally going to be like miniature Wookiees, but they're like, no, we'll make them a whole different species. So then they were like Ewoks or whatever. So then they save her, they bring her up, and then you already talked about her becoming Gandalf the White.
Yep. And then as Gandalf the White, she needs a Shadowfax. So of course she finds an enormous space whale.
Yes.
And
so they go.
Steed.
They go. That's their steed.
And by the way, it answered a question that we posed on this podcast.
We did.
They're clearly filter feeders.
Yes.
They've got them thistles in their mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So there are clearly space plankton confirmed.
There is space plankton, especially in the when light speed,
hyperspace lanes.
Yeah. So there's
maybe that's like it's a symbiotic relationship, and we are able to use these hyperspace lanes because the Purrgil are eating all of the crabs.
Eating
like
all the
space
hyperspace crabs. Yes.
And it's like without the Purrgil, they just be getting splattered crabs all over the place.
Exactly, and you want to be able to see out your windshield because there'll be splattered crabs. Yeah. So luckily, these Purrgil are there. So the Purrgil also, as we talked about when we saw them the first time in this, are from Rebels. Mm-hmm. And it is how Ezra and Thrawn did get taken away from us because the Purrgil wrapped themselves. You explained this to us. Wrapped their tentacles around the ship and into the ship, and then
because they hadn't thought about just parking it in their mouth.
Right? No, we'll just tow you. We'll just grab you and take you. So then Ahsoka, instead of getting her ship wrapped around the tentacles, she said, "Hey, I'll go in the front door." Yeah. And the giant whale said,
"Sure thing."
Okay. So he opened his mouth slowly. We saw
they parked on his tongue.
They parked on his tongue, just like Pinocchio's dad did on the.
Yeah, I'm thinking like, have y'all heard Moby Dick before? Like, have y'all watched Pinocchio? I am Ishmael. Call me Ishmael.
Call me Ishmael. Jonah, also from the Bible.
Yes, Jonah.
Jonah from the Bible. Pinocchio. Yeah. So they all have gone into whales' mouths before, and nothing bad ever happens to them. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure nothing bad is going to happen to Ahsoka. Mm-hmm. So then it was really funny, Ahsoka.
I love seeing they use essentially the same animation for when they go to light speed or hyperspace.
Right.
Where they pick up their tails and they almost look like engines. It was really cool to see that.
Yeah, they like curl them in like they're going to push out like a...
You think they're going to hyperspace fart.
Yeah, hyperspace fart and go out there. And then it was funny.
Hyperspace Farts, new band name.
That is... There we go. We need a list of all of the band names.
Yeah. Someone out there go and catalog all the band names
that Nick has created. So then they're about to fly away, and Huang says, "Where are we going?" And Ahsoka just sits back and goes, "I don't know." He's like, "What do we do?" It doesn't matter. We're good there. We're going wherever we're going.
Yeah, we might get there. If we don't, figure it out.
She is now the more enlightened, more laid back, more go with the flow, more peace hippie.
She could not give a single flying freak.
Nope. She's like, we're just going to go wherever this space whale takes us. And then Hera says, it was pretty funny in between there. When Hera tells, this is part that I was like, what? Hera tells Carter to distract the rebel force for a while while we take care of business down here. And they're asking him what it was a great joke. What are we waiting for, or what are they doing? And he's like, well, it's really hard to explain. And she was like,
believe me.
She's like, tell me, or you're
court-martialing. Yeah, whatever.
He's like, okay, well, there's these giant whales, and
it's just great. He could have lied, but it's like, I'll tell the truth. That'll be a bigger stall. That'll for sure.
You won't believe this truth as much as any lie that I could tell you.
Once it's proved true, it's like they pieced out. He's stuck back there, and he's like, what are you going to do? I told you the truth.
I told you the truth. Yeah. So, but it was funny when they go take evasive action, and then they just sat
Didn't
there.
do anything.
They didn't do anything. I'm like,
Literally, what evasive? Did you evade anything?
You
like
didn't
you're
evade
going
anything.
right through this.
you didn't go right. You didn't go left. You just sat there. I'm not really sure what evasive action you took, which made me laugh. But then they see, and when I was talking to Luke about it, he was like, they never heard of these Purgle before. And I said to him, I was like, maybe it's like us. Like we know that there are blue whales in the ocean. I've never seen one. If I was out on a boat and I saw one, I would be just as mesmerized as everybody on this ship was that they're like passing. They do exist. You know, it's like the M&Ms.
He does exist. They do exist. Santa?
Classic. So maybe they knew about them, but obviously nobody's ever seen them.
But we also think about this, and we always try and compare it to things we can kind of understand. So we think about, if I saw a blue whale, right? But blue whale is one species on our planet.
Yeah.
We're talking about a galaxy that has millions of different species, all in different regions. And this is a species that is not from a certain planet. This motherfucker it lives in the space.
They live in space. Yeah.
It eats space plankton, and it travels to different galaxies.
To galaxies away. Yeah.
So it wouldn't shock me if number one, most people didn't know about them. Number two, even if they did know about them, it's like a myth, you know what I mean? Almost like a unicorn.
Yeah, yeah.
And number
or
three,
Bigfoot.
Whether you hurt or Bigfoot, probably closer to Bigfoot. Just no feet. Big flipper.
Big flipper.
Big tentacle. Big suction cup. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. What was I saying?
So you're saying that you don't think that maybe they even knew that they really did exist because they are so mysterious.
Or I think the more simple answer is whether you knew they existed or not. When you see these enormous whales, you probably just go,
yeah, wow,
because there's a pretty good chance most people would go through their lives in that galaxy and never ever see that.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a neat scene, although even though they didn't take very good evasive maneuvers, it was a neat scene seeing the giant whales next to the ships, and those ships were big.
Yeah.
And those whales dwarfed those ships.
Yeah, it was cool seeing the big, like I said, the big mama. Once you put her in perspective, it's that's a big.
That's a big. Yeah. So that was pretty cool, and Carter was good. Still, once again, I wish we would have seen Zeb. I want Zeb. Give me Zeb.
Or bring me death.
That's right. So then at the very end, Hera says to Ahsoka, may the Force be with you.
Which was nice.
Which was very nice. And now Ahsoka's off on her mission, leaving Hera behind with Jason and to deal with Mon Mothma.
Conveniently with part of the fleet.
Yes.
And the not overwhelming, but one theory out there is that we've got 3 episodes left, 6, 7, 8?
3 episodes left.
So that leaves us with enough time to meet Thrawn and for him to prove how dangerous he is. Because if you don't know the cartoon, you don't know why he's dangerous,
right?
But you figure if we get an episode of the good guys getting there, which is the same episode that we get an episode, we see the bad guys moving around on that place, and then the next episode is hey, we found Thrawn, we need you, let's go back to the other place, and then the last episode is Thrawn shows up, maybe he's in his limping in his old beat up Star Destroyer. They show back up to where they left, and here's the fleet waiting for them. And they think, oh, here's easy pickings. And then all of a sudden we see why Thrawn's so dangerous, because he does some tactical craziness.
Right. Or he
kills
gets
them all.
Yeah. Or it gets somehow 3 other Star Destroyers that we don't know about.
Right.
He's
they were right here all along.
Yeah, Commander Green, go, and then something. Other ships magically show up.
Pelion, we might see Captain Pelion actually show
Pelion
up
showing up would be awesome. I hope we don't have to wait till the very end of episode 8 to see Thrawn. That would be a major disappointment.
I'm hoping we get to in live action, especially for those who haven't watched. like see in like before the end of this why this is a big deal.
Yeah.
Why this person is like. Otherwise, it's just like it's been building up to that blue guy. Why do we care?
Why do we care? Yeah. So hopefully it doesn't build up to it, and then we have to wait 16 months, 18 months to find out why we're building up to this blue guy.
But it gets my stamp of approval.
Yes, 100%.
We're gonna wrap it rapidly here because I gotta tell you, it's late.
It is late. Yep.
But outstanding, like one of my favorite, certainly some of my favorite Star Wars moments.
Yep.
Like just seeing those relationships that I've cared about and seeing them on screen. So I was a bit like, again, it really turned around my view on the series as a whole so far. We'll hope that it continues with more of these interesting. Again, it wasn't like I loved it because the CGI was great and like the fight was great. But like I said, it wasn't just that. It was the stakes behind the fight,
right?
And like the relationships it affected,
and just her growth with Anakin and seeing Anakin in live action.
Yeah,
the Clone Wars Anakin in live action was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So, yep, I give it 2 thumbs up.
I give it 2 thumbs plus 2 big toes up.
That's a lot of ups.
A lot of ups.
Yeah, it's a lot of ups.
So let us know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe, smash the share button, the bell thing, send up smoke signals, share us on your BeReal, and come back next week when we will be talking about episode 6. I'm gonna guess it's gonna be entitled "Heir to the Emperor."
Oh, that'd be amazing.
That's my guess.
Yeah, that would be amazing if it was.
We'll see what happens.
Direct quote from the book. So yes,
we have spoken.
We have spoken.